Indeed. Let's talk some basketball. Welcome back into the Gary Harris Show. 10:32 here on the program, 28 minutes in front of the hour of 11 o'clock, and we'll go up to Nashville, Tennessee, Music City, where we're joined by Bryan Passink, color analyst for Alabama men's basketball on the Crimson Tide Sports Network. Good morning, Bryan.
Good morning, Gary. I got to tell you a story about that song, the legendary Curtis Blow basketball song. So a couple years ago when I was in high school, in 1990, I think it was, we were supposed to turn in our senior quotes for the yearbook. Mm-hmm. And so I haven't changed much. Like the slacker I was and still am, I forgot to do it. And so somebody on the yearbook committee used that song as my senior quote. Basketball is my favorite sport. I like the way they dribble up and down the court. It was my senior quote by Curtis Blow, which was your bumper music. So there you go. I was embarrassed about that for a while, but now it's kind of funny.
Nice tie-in, yeah. And really, it wasn't that far from the truth, actually.
I think that's what made it funny is it was pretty accurate.
Hey, listen, Bryan, good to catch up with you. It's been a while. I definitely want to get into Alabama and Nate Oates in this game against Vanderbilt tonight, but I do want to start with the big story in college basketball this morning. Unfortunately, is the brawl between K-State and Kansas last night. It's going to have a direct impact, I think, on Saturday for Kansas versus Tennessee, and Kansas State here in Tuscaloosa to take on Alabama in the Big 12 SEC Challenge. But as a former Division I player, I kind of want to go through and get your thoughts on how this went down. Baseball is the sport with unwritten rules, but let's be honest. Usually when you're down 22 points, as Kansas State was, and the other team's dribbling out the clock, you don't steal the basketball. DeJuan Gordon did that. Now, there was still time on the clock, but he did probably kind of do something that you don't expect to be seen from your opponent. And Kansas took exception. I think there was a backup guard. He kind of grabbed the guy by the arm, and then Silvio De Souza rejected the ball into the court. And then, of course, this standing over the guy after you block his shot stuff's got to stop. But the next thing you know, we got ourselves a pure Sixer, and that's going to have ramifications for these two teams throughout the season. First, Gordon stealing the ball. Is that out of line?
It's not something I would recommend, but I don't mind it. I mean, there's still time on the clock, and you're out there competing.
Sure.
So I don't have a problem with it. If you're running out the clock, protect the ball. And, if a guy's playing defense and he wants to go for a steal, doesn't bother me in the least. The way it all played out, and I've seen it, several times, I guess, like everybody else. Just terrible situation. Hate it. Two class programs, both class head coaches. Obviously, a lot of embarrassment by Kansas and Kansas State. There's no winners in this. Is a team that's about to face Kansas State. I understand that there may be some suspensions, but I don't want Kansas State to come in here with a bunch of guys suspended. I mean, I was really looking forward to the SEC Big 12 Challenge, and I don't know what'll happen, and I guess we're still waiting to hear. Looks like some guys are definitely going to be suspended. I'd be shocked if they weren't. But to me, that's not good for anybody. So I hate to see it. It's just such an unfortunate situation. I was seeing nothing to this extent, but going back a couple of years ago when there was, and it wasn't a brawl, but it was a bench clear where some guys got into it a couple of years ago in Brooklyn. And not a lot of people saw it live because it was during the Iron Bowl, but a lot of people saw it later on SportsCenter, and that's the Alabama-Minnesota game at the Barclays Center where guys came off the bench for Alabama. Didn't fight, just came off the bench, and everybody got thrown out of the game, and the legendary 3-on-5 with Colin Sexton leading the way, bringing Alabama back against what was a highly ranked Minnesota team and almost winning the game was something that I'll never forget. But, you can't leave the bench. But what was unique about that, and so many things were just like nothing I've ever seen. Is the game was over. So, what are the rules on leaving the bench when 000s hit? So, hated to see it. Bad for everyone involved, college basketball, and I personally understand that suspensions need to happen, but kind of hope they don't. I was looking forward to playing a Kansas State team that outside of last night was playing well. They just pounded number 12 West Virginia this weekend and was playing well, and that was going to be a great challenge for Alabama coming up this weekend. It still is. I mean, we're not sure what's going to happen, and don't know how that'll affect their team.
Bryan, one more thought on how it got started, and you said you didn't have a problem with Gordon steering the ball. Certainly don't have a problem with DeSouza getting back down there to block the shot. It was a good defensive play to save a basket. After that, though, and I get it. Basketball is it's a lot of times it's a one-on-one game, and you beat the guy. There's always been, players are animated sometimes. But this stuff where you block a shot and you just stand over the guy and taunt him, emotions are already high there because it's a rivalry game and Kansas State's get beaten badly. That's what started all this. There's some talk that DeSouza maybe needs to be permanently removed from the team. But what are your thoughts on maybe we've let this expression stuff kind of get out of hand? A guy makes a three-pointer now. He stares at the opposing bench running back down the court, or he points at the guy. It's just a lot of antics that I think do lead to the potential for these type of altercations. So what did you think of D'Souza? I guess you'd have to say he started it when he stood over the guy and just taunted him.
Yeah, I didn't like it. And, that's the kind of play that would warrant a technical over the course of the game. And because emotions were high, the game was over. There was a lot that went wrong, emotionally with both teams. That definitely got it started, and there should be punishment for that. That's not okay to taunt and stand over a guy after you block a shot and act that way. And that's in the rule books. You can't do that. But it also doesn't mean that because of that, one mistake leads to 2 to 3, and all of a sudden we have a bench clear and brawl, and it's all over, not just Sports Center, but, it's all over CNN and Fox News and the national news, not just the sports world, is looking at this because it was such a bad incident, and hated to see it for all parties involved.
All right, we're going to move on, but you know how our loyal listeners are on Twitter. Hunter Ledson wants to know, in a courtside brawl, what weapon would be your weapon of choice? Chair, stool, cooler? What would you go for?
Oh, man. I don't have a weapon of choice on the sideline.
Bryan, you'd grab whatever it had to grab to protect your hair. Whatever that would be, a helmet maybe.
That's right. No, I would say I just throw Chris Stewart in front of me to protect me, but I better not say that since all that Chris.
Yeah, let's get him back to 100% first, Bryan. Before we.
Yeah, he's ready. Chris is doing well. He's gained a lot of strength. I think he can protect me, so that might be my weapon of choice.
It's funny you say that because I saw him Saturday after the game, and I said, man, listen, you're just throwing jabs right now, but you'll be back to throwing haymakers before long. He said, no, I'm going to stick to the jabs for a while. So maybe he's not ready for full contact. All right, let's get to Bama, man. It's starting to happen. I mean, hey, you know me, I always play the what-if game. What if you beat Penn? What if you beat Penn State? What if you beat Florida? I mean, you're probably top 15, 16 in the country and a lock for the tournament. Didn't happen. You can't undo that. But the way they're playing right now, and I know it all starts with offense with Nate Oates. They play the way they play. It's fun, but defensively it's starting to click. I think these players are understanding, hey, all this quickness and athleticism that helps us get freed up for good looks on the offensive end, we can use this to make life miserable for the opposition defensively. Are you picking up on that, Bryan?
Yeah, I think this team has improved as much or more than anybody in the country on the defensive end of the floor. And they've gotten much more comfortable offensively. The turnovers are down. Still not exactly where you want to be, but playing at the pace they're playing at, I think the turnover numbers have really, made a remarkable improvement. But defensively, these guys are locked in. They're better individual defenders, better team defenders. They're taking so much pride on that end of the floor. And this is not the same team I saw in the first few games of the season on the defensive end. And you take a guy like Jaden Shackelford, who has been really good offensively and was ready to go from day one in a major college atmosphere. Strong, athletic, could shoot, could score, but wasn't a great defensive player in the early part of the season. But he's really taken a lot of pride in getting better. And he's gone from a guy that really struggled on that end of the floor to a very good defensive player to go along with what he can do on the offensive end. John Petty has been one of the best defensive players in the SEC this year. And that wasn't the case. His freshman year, certainly not the case as a sophomore, but he's gotten so much better in every facet, has become a team leader. Herbert Jones may be the best defensive player in college basketball, can guard 1 through 5. His effort is off the charts. His basketball IQ is off the charts on both ends of the floor. And then, you add in someone like Beetle Bolden, Alabama's only senior, comes from West Virginia, brings that mentality, such a scrappy, hard-nosed player coming off the bench. Kyra Lewis has improved as a defender. This team has gotten better on that end of the floor, no doubt about it. And also, they've gotten healthier. They've been able to practice. And it's hard to implement what this team does on both ends of the floor. It's different than what they've done in years past.
Oh, no doubt.
You're not able to practice. And now guys are getting healthier. They're starting to feel more comfortable offensively. They're improving defensively. And I think that's one of the reasons this team has been playing so well.
In your role as an analyst, you see him up close, and also as a former player. And I want you to speak to this, because this is something that I think is worth pointing out. And give Avery credit. Man, he recruited these guys. There's some good basketball players on this roster. And you look at a basketball team and you just assume they're conditioned, and they are. But yet we see teams get tired at the end of games. I thought last year Alabama got tired a couple times at the end of the game, and it affected them in terms of the outcome. When Oates got here, Bryan, everything from just how to condition the mindset had to be changed. I mean, I heard stories they were making pizzas left and right out there early on, trying to adjust to the way that they conditioned them. Then you're trying to pick up the tempo and play at a pace that none of these guys had ever played at in college. Then, as you said, you're trying to do it and not be sloppy, and then you're trying to get the defense to come around. I mean, it has been an evolution, and this team is a lot better. And you look at them now here on January 22nd, and you wonder about come SEC tournament time how much better they're going to be. This could be a scary team because it's all starting to happen for them now on both ends. They run as fast in the 39th minute of a game as they do the first minute of a game, which is amazing to me, but it's all kind of been a process. We use that for Alabama football all the time with Nick Saban, but this has been a process, hasn't it?
It has, and it started, as you mentioned, day one with the individual and some of the team workouts. And, we kind of laugh about it because everybody tells you, every player tells you they want to play fast and they want to play at breakneck speed until you have to practice that way, because it's really hard. And if you want to be number 3 in the country, 2 or 3 in the country in terms of tempo, pace of play, which is where Nate Oates' teams have been at Buffalo, it's where Alabama is right now, you got to practice differently than if you're a traditional offensive defensive basketball team. So it started in practice 1, where these guys were getting after it, everything they do, from every shooting drill to every conditioning drill. They are pushing the pace, and to be able to play this way, that's where it started, and it's continued through the year. And there's been some bumps in the road in terms of feeling comfortable, understanding what the coach wants you to do, and also just the overall health of this team. And those things are starting to click, and this team's playing so much better as a result.
Visiting with Bryan Passink, color analyst for Alabama men's basketball on the Crimson Tide Sports Network. Of course, you hear Alabama basketball here on our Town Square media family of stations. We'll be tonight, 8 p.m. from Memorial Gym in Vanderbilt. How impressed have you been with Coach Oates from the standpoint? I know I am, but you know more about the game than I do. It's one thing for a coach to stand there at a press conference and say, we're going to do this. As I've said often, nobody ever stands up there and says, we're going to be boring. We want to beat people 50-48. I mean, they don't say that. But they don't always play that way. And this guy came came in. I think sometimes coaches have a tendency to get to a program, and then they look at what they've got, and they say, well, we want to play this way, but maybe we'll play this way. We'll adjust a little bit because this is what fits the personnel. Nate Oates says, no, we play my system. If we put Gary Harris out there, we're going to play my system. And you know, he does what he does. And as you said, he forces players to adjust to it. That's not always what you see in coaching, Bryan. You don't always see guys put their money where their mouth is. This cat really does it, and it's a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, I agree with you. I will disagree on one point. If Gary Harris is out there, we're not playing this way.
I knew that was
there's no he totally adjusts. We go four corners. And there's no way that we play this style. But no, I agree with you. And I think, and you mentioned it, and I think, you know, giving Avery Johnson credit is appropriate because he recruited guys that are high level talent. You know, did they live up to their potential as in the first year or two that they were there? You know, sometimes, but maybe not as consistently as we'd like. But these guys like Kyra Lewis, John Petty, Herb Jones, Alex Reese, they fit probably better into Nate Oates' system than they did Avery's. So that has worked out really well. But these guys, everybody wants to play at this pace because it's fun to play. It's hard to practice. It's hard to get in condition. It's not fun when you've got trash cans lined up and down the court because guys need to come out because they're not in that type of condition early on, but now they are, and it is a lot of fun. You can tell these guys have not only bought in, but they love playing this way. Fans love it. We see a packed Coleman Coliseum rocking and rolling. Our fans have appreciated this style and this effort level so much because it's not just high octane offense. It's also that hard hat mentality, the blue collar basketball that Nate Oates preaches, probably more so than pace of play. Is it's about toughness and diving on the floor for loose balls and winning the hard hat award and getting deflections and doing all the dirty things that this team has really taken a lot of pride in. And that combination of playing the pace and the style that they play has been a lot of fun for these players, a lot of fun for fans. And also, I think there's a lot of recruits out there around the country that are taking notice to how Alabama basketball is playing. And if you're a high school player, a high-level athlete, and want to play at the highest level, how can you not want to take a look at this system and possibly be a part of it? So I think the future is bright for a lot of reasons, and there's a good reason why a lot of people are excited about this program right now. I'm
with you, Bryan. Bryan Passink, our guest. You mentioned John Petty, perfect example of what we're talking about. And give the players credit. They've got to buy in. But John Petty has gone from basically a catch-and-shoot guy, a defensive liability, to a guy now who I saw him in high school, Bryan. I think I told you I did the state tournament several years in a row, and I just thought this guy's an NBA player. You know, he's got that kind of talent. Now you're starting to see it on both ends. I mean, he's using his size. He's shooting a three, yeah, but he's posting people up. He's getting to the glass. He's getting to the free throw line. He's defending. His metamorphosis as a basketball player this season is really, I think, a key to this team, you know, being able to do what it's doing. Talk about Petty from your perspective, how much he's improved as a player.
He's improved more than anybody in the SEC that I've seen. He's been unbelievable, and it takes both sides. It's not – it just can't be a coach coming in with a different mentality and asking different things. If there's no buy-in, there's no result like we've seen with some of these players, and nobody is a better example than John Petty, a guy that has had an up-and-down freshman and sophomore season, so much expected of him. But just hasn't reached his full potential. And I would say that he's gone beyond what I thought he could be. I thought he could be a great offensive player and be a decent defender and do some different things. I didn't think he would lead the team in rebounding. I didn't think he would become the defensive player and the leader that he's been this year. So Coach Oates and his staff, they've done a great job with all these guys, including John. But it takes a different type of mindset and wanting to be great and buying in and believing in what the coaches are telling them. And John Petty has done a terrific job of that.
All right, Bryan, we're getting up against the clock, but I want you to handicap the game tonight. We know Memorial Gym has been a house of horrors throughout the years for Alabama, but this is a Vanderbilt team that didn't win a conference game last year. hasn't won a conference game so far this year. But for Alabama, this is a must-win in terms of where they're at, the pecking order. You're coming off 2 really good home wins. This is the kind of game that if you're going to play yourself in position to be an NCAA tournament team, you got to win it tonight, right? You got to overcome all of the natural instincts to maybe think, well, we can beat this team by just showing up. You got to be ready to play because Vanderbilt proved at Auburn, where they almost upset the Tigers. They're capable. What's your feeling on this matchup tonight?
Yeah, I think it's a mindset game that will be won between the ears, maybe prior to the game, and that's getting ready to play, understanding that this is a team that's capable of beating you, and you can't look at what Vanderbilt did last year. They've done the early part of this year. This is still a team at Memorial Gym that is incredibly dangerous. Going in to the Tennessee game, they were leading the SEC in three-point percentage. Aaron Nesmith is out, and obviously that's going to hurt them, but they've got capable guys. I can't imagine that Vanderbilt isn't going to win a game this year like last year. They pride themselves on what they do at Memorial Gym. The history is what it is, and Alabama is coming off of a win at Memorial Gym this year. Hopefully that'll give them some confidence. I don't think Nate Oates will allow this team to overlook Vanderbilt, but I just think Vanderbilt has some weapons, and they're capable of beating some people this year in the SEC, especially at home. I just hope it starts next game for the Commodores and Alabama comes out and plays well, because I think they're going to need to.
All right, great stuff, Bryan. Catch Bryan along with Chris Stewart. Glad to have him back. Of course, Tom Stipe, Roger Hoover tonight, 7:30 the airtime on the Bear, our sister station 95.3, Alabama versus Vanderbilt. Thanks so much, Bryan. I enjoyed it.
All right. Thanks for having me, Gary.